increasingly feel at war with the world. It's striking that Herod is the first government figure we meet in the New Testament, and he had no qualms lying to the wise men in verses 7 and 8, falsely claiming he wished to worship Jesus whilst planning his murder. Now, we live in a nation that for many years was shaped by Christian influence. But over the last 2 centuries, this Christian influence has been dismantled with ever-increasing pace. For previous generations, it may have been reasonable to assume that the government and other groups like the media were mostly honest and were seeking to do good. But increasingly they are not. If the BBC happily describes normal Christian teaching as bigoted, which it does, if it confidently tells us that men can become women, should we trust it on other things? On a different note, back in 2020, a lot of Christians said we had to stop holding worship services and close our churches because the government says so. Now, there may be a time when it's right to suspend worship to avoid some danger, but it cannot merely be because the government says so. Christianity was illegal across the Roman Empire for lengthy periods in the early church. Today, there are many nations where it's illegal to evangelize. China, for example, is one. And some where being a Christian at all is illegal. North Korea, for instance. We've not reached that point in England. And God willing, we never will. But long before we get there, we need to know that we are in a war. Things are not right merely because the government says so. The government in his day said, murder Jesus. The wise men had to disobey King Herod in order to serve Jesus, verse 12. Joseph, Mary, and Jesus had to flee to another country to avoid death at the hands of the government, verse 13. There is a true king, and there is a rebellion, and so there is a war. Following Jesus may mean saying no to your boss. It may mean saying no to the government. It should mean recognizing that a lot of what the world tells you will be totally false. Or maybe even more dangerously, half true and half false. There's many issues we could talk about. Our modern culture, it tells us that life is all about you. It says, be the thing you want to be, cast off all limits, break free. Our media and recent government pushes these lies. And what's the result? Well, we could talk at length about the rising mental health crisis. We could talk about the teenagers who've been chemically castrated because they wrongly thought they could override biology. That girls could become boys and boys could become girls. We could talk about the way our society has lived for years now by exploiting cheap labour in other nations and stealing from the future by accumulating debt that it seems very unlikely we can repay. We can talk about various ways our society seems to be self-destructing. And we should earnestly pray that these trends reverse. This idea of having everything you want your own way, it does not work. In fact, it's the basic principle of rebellion. It's the basic principle of saying, no, it's all about me, not about God. But I want us to pause on a different point, prompted by verse 16. Verse 16 we read, Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was exceedingly angry. And he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its districts from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men. Herod wanted to keep his power, and as he clung on to death, he murdered many others. He murdered innocent children. He murdered babes in a vain hope of driving away Jesus Christ. Yes, we should consider this as a picture of how many nations persecute the church. We are called to be innocent as babes, 1 Corinthians 14:20. And over the years, many have lost their lives for Christ. According to Open Doors, 4,849 Christians were killed for being Christian last year. But there's another angle to consider. The single highest cause of death in our nation is abortion, the killing of unborn children. Around 300,000 unwanted children were killed in our nation last year. Could there be a clearer sign that we're a nation at war with life, at war with the giver of life, God? Government should protect the innocent and punish the guilty. But in our nation, violent criminals are given shorter and shorter sentences. Many heinous crimes are not even prosecuted. Meanwhile, our government pays for the murder of unborn infants. Our nation has told young people that children are a burden, a barrier to success, so don't have them. Many are pressured into having their unborn child killed. And I fear that the modern British church has been asleep to the evil direction of our society. We all say there's a spiritual war going on, but do we consider what that means practically? It means forces in our society will be on the other side. It has practical and political implications. There's a true king, but there's a rebellion, and so there's a war. Rebellion, grace, war, and our fourth word is you. You. There is a rebellion. We are all complicit. We have all sinned. We have all fallen short of the glory of God. But there is grace. Jesus came to save his people from their sins. He came to take on himself the consequences of our sin, even to die in our place, to give us life. So there is a war. Some submit to Jesus. Some double down on the rebellion. Where do you stand? Whatever you have done, Jesus came to offer you life. If you denounce the rebellion and call on him, his grace will be enough for you. He will forgive you. He will restore you and lead you to be with him forever. If Herod had admitted he was wrong, denounced his evil and come to Jesus, he could have been forgiven. Even after murdering children, he could have been forgiven. Jesus is the all-powerful God himself, come to save his people from their sins. There is no sin too bad. There is no life too grim or broken that Jesus cannot heal it. So if you are still in the rebellion, if you're still on the path of death and destruction, will you turn around? Will you come to him for grace? And if you are committed to him, do you know that this life is a war? Yes, as we hear, I'm sure quite a lot, a war against the sinful passions of the flesh, but a war that extends into how things are done in society. Are you in the fight? Jesus calls you to be fully committed to him, the true king. And if you are, that is going to set you against the world. Let's pray.